Now we have already seen cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery in other modules. Let's take a look again now in this context. So cross-site scripting. I have a client-side script that I inject into some web page. What I'm doing is I'm exploiting the fact that the web page is dynamically generating this content. And it has vulnerabilities because it's not checking what I upload. So I need to, of course, be able to put in invalidated input data into dynamic content. That's the whole idea. The malicious code is hidden within something legitimate. And I use it to steal data, probe the intranet, remote monitor, keylog, manipulate data, whatever. As I've said before, there's some web server that is willing to take user input. Product reviews, Facebook posts, some kind of blogs or forums or something, people upload stuff. And the assumption is other people are going to look at it. And when I'm uploading stuff, of course, HTML can have JavaScript hidden inside of it. And the scripting doesn't have to be nice. So the other person looks at my review of a product and doesn't realize that in the background, malicious code is running. That's the whole premise behind cross-site scripting. So we are doing this attack. We are putting malicious JavaScript up into a website which is then downloaded and run in the victim's browser. And we can use it to steal cookies, to read sensitive info, to inject malware, etc. Cross-site scripting, as I've already said, is one of the most popular and effective attack on the web, in web apps. 3 basic categories, and we've mentioned these before. The stored XSS is I inject script into something that's stored on the server and people go and read it. Reflected, I somehow send a script like by email or something or some other malicious site that the browser gets. It tries to send it to the server sends it back as an error message, and the browser then, trusting the server, goes ahead and runs it. Or DOM-based, which is, we don't even use the server. It is, the cross-site scripting is totally done on the client. Don't involve a server at all. So what we do is we check input fields to see if they are vulnerable to cross-site scripting. There are tons of tools that'll do this for you. You don't have to do it manually. And then we inject some kind of script into the form. And the script could pop up in the client's browser or can do things in the background. In fact, probably we want it to do things in the background, although most of the training versions of cross-site scripting just show a little pop-up to show how vulnerable you could be. We generally use some kind of social engineering. And one thing we could do, if you're concerned about the Facebook page or the whatever not being willing to take malicious code directly, you just put in a bogus URL, something that points to a malicious site. Because how is Facebook going to be checking URLs, right? So someone clicks the URL and they're sent to your phony website, and then they download the script that way. So if we want to have this be persistent, we modify the data that is stored by the app. So we can try different forms, and we could, like the site feedback page. And like I've said before, not every point of injection is visible. So we might be able to put it in the post data in an HTTP request. It depends upon the web app. Cross-site request forgery, as we have said, we are attacking the trust relationship between a server and a browser. And this bears repeating. The user has already logged in. The server trusts them because they've authenticated them. Now somehow in the background, I'm feeding that user browser a malicious request to execute in the background. So while the user is doing normal e-banking, there's a malicious request in the background coming from the browser. So the server thinks it's legitimate. It's just the user never sees it. coming from the browser saying, please also wire $10,000 to so-and-so. Or please also make a purchase for X and drop ship it to a different address. So cross-site request forgery. We've talked about that already. Hard to validate because, I mean, it looks normal. The request looks normal. In fact, about the only way you can really be sure against cross-site request forgeries, mainly because we don't do anything to the server. It's all done on the client, and the server already trusts the client. So what like e-banking sites and other sites will do is they'll have algorithms to check for what is considered normal behavior for that user. And if suddenly a request comes from that user that is like way out of bounds for what's normal for that user, then they might block it or even block your account for a moment and send you like a text message or an email or something saying, we've blocked your account, you need to call us. So that's what like e-banking sites will do to deal with cross-site request forgeries. So those are the cross-site attacks, and we have discussed them several times in different modules.